Yeah, you'll be right. Yeah. I'll see you in Texas. No, the one that bites is in there.
I bite that.
Oh, okay. Well, then you're okay.
All right, I will call this Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Thursday, October 4th. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any added agenda items?
I'd like to add one.
Okay.
We had an incident yesterday in our little complex that made TV news with a gas leak.
Yes.
I'd like to talk about that just a little bit
Okay,
as part of our agenda.
all right. Let's put it down at 10E under new business.
Mhm.
Any further added agenda items? Okay, I move to approve the agenda as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jason?
Yes.
Okay, Steve Dearborn is absent, the rest are present. Public participation, that's fine. But I was going to say that there's two items, 250th anniversary and the casino, that I think we can discuss when we get to those topics. But go ahead, Barbara.
Barbara Sherman, 12 Allen Drive, Rosebrook. I would just like to say that the 250th committee did a great job, and kudos to all of them. At the end, on Heritage Day, I was awarded a Spirit Day Award, and I want to say thank you for that. I don't know who selected me, but I appreciate it. And now putting on my official hat, American Heritage River Commission, I left paperwork there for everyone to say what the E. coli testing for this year showed. And if you get a chance and look at it, you'll see there's a lot of R's, which is red. Red means that more than 574 particles of bad stuff was in the water. The reds that I circled in yellow means that the amount was more than 2,419 particles, which is off the charts, and they couldn't test it any further. So looking at that, we had a lot of times that there was a lot of bacteria in the Scannick River and precluded people from safely using it. I want to say thank you for funding our E. coli testing, and I hope that next year when budget comes around that you'll continue to fund it so that we can have, know when it's safe to be in the Scannick and let everybody know the conditions are safe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Barbara, is it concluded that that came from the heavy rainfall this year, or?
Most of the R ratings came right after very heavy rains, yes. One or two, no, and we're not sure why, but it seems that the rains did impact.
Do the experts give you any opinion on why?
Again, they're looking for 5 years of this testing before they come with an actual conclusion. They're still separating and trying to decide if they can come up with a source. Massachusetts, University of Massachusetts is working on whether or not it's weather related. So there's a lot of people working on this throughout the state. and compiling everybody's information, and so there's no answer yet. Right now, it's just a snapshot.
This is year one?
This is the third year of the program.
Third year?
Yes, yes. So at least 2 more before there's a pattern that they would say.
Is this typical of the first 2 years also?
No.
We were in drought conditions for the first 2 years, though.
Pardon?
We were in drought conditions, so we weren't seeing any kind of rain.
Correct, correct. So there were times, but not to have 10 occasions where we were off the board. That is not typical.
Barbara, when I look at this, okay, there are some R's on here that weren't highlighted. Is there a reason why?
The R's meant that it was more than 574 particles.
Yeah,
The ones that are highlighted meant that it was off the chart and they could not
got it.
come up with what a number is, more than 2,400. So 5 times greater
Yeah.
than the base unsafe line.
You know, regarding the weather, I don't know, it's, when you look at the week of July 18th, whenever they tested there, all the locations on the sheet were an R.
Right.
And you look at August 8th, they were all R as well.
Mhm.
So it kind of tells you, you know, it's maybe directed because of the heavy rains during that period. If everybody ends up with the same thing.
Right.
So it kind of seems that way, but.
What do the asterisks mean on the 13th and 15th? Is that collected over 2 days?
Yes, the reason is the Enfield collections, Enfield and Summers, are done by Dr. Martin herself. She had jury duty for Wednesday. So she had to do them on Monday, and then so the results came the next day. The students did them on Wednesday and brought them back to her, but she, couldn't be there. So yes, 2 different dates.
And the X's on the 5th, 12th, and 19th of September indicate no tests at those points?
That's correct. There is not as much funding in Enfield and in Summers as there is in East Windsor. So when they run out of money, they stop. It was actually supposed to have been stopped earlier, but she had some left over from a different study that she's doing. So she used those reagents to go 1 more week up there.
What depurates the water?
Pardon?
What cleans the water? So how long does it, if we close a shellfish bed in Connecticut, there's a mandatory waiting period of 8 days before it can be reopened again. What's the cleaning period?
Okay, because we don't have the funds that the state does, we test once a week.
Yeah, so do we.
Okay.
Well,
so,
we test after rainfall, actually.
right, okay, we test once a week. So, again, it's a snapshot. So, you're smiling, I take your picture, you look great. 2 seconds later, you're frowning, you don't look so good, okay? So, I can't tell you. I can only tell you that at that particular time, which is usually Wednesday morning around 10 o'clock, these are the results, okay? If we had more rain after that, could it have dissipated some of the amount? Maybe. Did it make it worse? Maybe. It's only testing, it can only show you what it can show you. The point is that it is showing that there are times that it's bad. So we alert our residents to that fact, and then it's up to them as to whether or not they want to. If it was a state beach, it would be closed, period. We're not closing the Scannick River.
Where does the Scannick River originate? Is it the Summers Mill?
It starts up in Stafford, actually.
That's the problem.
Up in Stafford, and flows into Hampton, Mass, coming downhill from Stafford on that side into Mass, and then down into Summers, through Summers, Enfield, East Windsor, South Windsor, and into the Connecticut. So, if anybody wants to look and really see what happened throughout the state, there's a website, Is It Clean Connecticut River? And all of the tributaries that go into the Connecticut that are tested, and there's several of them throughout the state, it will show you their weekly numbers.
There is nothing you would do to treat the river, is there? Nature takes care of itself, right?
Correct.
Because at the beaches, for example, when they close those, one of the big things to restore it is sunshine. Ultraviolet light kills the bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
But in a river that's like the Scannick, it's overhung with trees and trees and trees, you get darn little sunlight, so the time for nature to correct it is probably much longer.
Yeah. Nature may be causing it, nature may be correcting it, yes. Nothing we can do, only alert people to say, not so good to use the river right now.
And Barbara, I look at this and I don't know whether we as a community, you know, and it should be concerned or whether it is just what it is. Would there be any action taken? Would there be signs put up saying, you know...
There's 3 places that we have the signs. We have a sign at the end of Cemetery Road, where is a good fishing spot and a good place where people put the canoe in, we'll take it out. We have one at Melrose Road, again, a very big fishing area and swimming hole for people in the Melrose area. And the other one is at the filter beds. Again, fishing area, canoe launch site, and people going in and out of the water.
And the signs warn people that it is not
Correct. Blue says recreation activity allowed, anything you want to do. Yellow says we recommend boating only. And the red says it is not, it is unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it's a free country.
Yeah, oh yeah, I understand.
Whoever wants to use, we don't stop them.
Yep.
We're just alerting.
Are similar tests being done in Stafford and Hampton?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
So why was it selected that it would be Summers, Enfield, and East Windsor, and not the whole way?
Dr. Martin is a Summers resident. She is the microbiologist down at St. Joe's University, and this was her project. And they funded her, and so that's what she's doing. She now has an associate that's with her, and he's trying to isolate the source of some of the bacteria, whether it be cow, whether it be horse, whether it be chicken, whether it be goose, whether it would be human.
Well, the reason I ask is because Stafford in particular is a mill town, and I'm wondering if there aren't contaminants. I mean, if it's fecal bacteria, then it's got to be something living. But it just seems. I'm curious if it's a funding thing. That's an easy explanation, but. It doesn't seem like it would be a conclusive study if you're not studying the whole thing, because you can't conclusively say that it's starting here and not 40 feet up there.
Correct. But
Is there a reason why the Broadbrook Pond wasn't in this?
basically, the water that's in there is coming from the res, and that's already tested by the state. So.
The water that's in the Broadbrook Pond is coming from the res?
Oh, excuse me. Broadbrook Pond is coming, I think, from East Road, and that's where we're testing.
It comes from Ellington
and
to
then
the
just
through
below
the brook.
we tested Chestnut Brook, which is Mill Street. So it's tested on either side, but not the brook itself,
Okay, but not the pond.
not the pond itself.
Yeah, the pond's not, Broadbrook Pond's not fed by East Road. It's fed out of Ellington.
Yeah.
It goes down there, yeah.
So Ellington from Ketch Brook? No.
No, Ellington, out past the old baseball diamond where Mill Pond is. It runs past behind that and into the pond there.
It is.
We used to fish that stream going all the way back up to Carroll's Bridge in Melrose. We used to fish off of that all the time.
It is fed by East Road, but it's the East Road in the Melrose section, and that comes
Yes.
down through
Correct.
Ellington. It doesn't come by Windsor Pond.
Right. Say it again, please.
There's at least 2 points where water crosses through or under or over East Road. There's out by Charlie's house, which is not the one they're talking about, and
No.
then there's the one
Yeah, that's right.
over north of my house.
Yes, right.
Where that runs through Ellington
Yeah.
by Sawmill
Right.
out back there.
Right.
That's the water source for the Broadway
Right.
Mill.
Yeah, that's where it's tested.
When we were kids, we used to fish that, go to Ellington and walk all the way down to the Broadbrook.
Thanks,
Okay,
Barbara.
Good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, Bob.
You want some assistance on that? I used to be a wetlands commissioner, that's why I know a little bit. I did a study with the Wood Hole Observatory out of Boston, out of Massachusetts, and we came up the Connecticut River and we tested all the waters all the way up. what we found was below Hartford, after a big rain, all our sewers in Hartford, when it rained, they combined with the fecal matter and everything else. So for about 15 days after a big rain, 10 miles of the Connecticut River was completely polluted.
South of Hartford?
South of Hartford. And the same with south of Massachusetts had the same problem. As far as the pond over at the park, the problem there was the weeds growing too much. And when they put in the store over in, what is it, Walmart, Walmart had a section of wetlands, and they mitigated so that they put a berm along that field, because all that fertilizer that they put on the field would on the rain would rush into the brook and then down into the pond. And that's how you got so much greenery there. So now that should be subsiding a little bit. But that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
It gives you a little clarification of what, you know, you can get it from fertilizer from the plants or people's lawns. Let's say you have a big development, everybody fertilizes their lawn, but where does their sewage go to? Does it go right into the brook, or does it go into the waste treatment plant? Where does it go? So it could be anything.
Be interesting to see the results of the study when you're done.
Yeah.
I guess that's why the Windsor Pond is so green all the time.
I'm Robert Slate, by the way, 30 Deerfield Drive.
Because
Any further? Sarah?
Sarah Muska, 25 Maple Avenue. I just have a concern. It's been brought to my attention that the town has hired Mr. Yegeloff as legal counsel. He currently serves on our Broadbrook Mill Remediation Committee and our Charter Revision Commission. And although I have nothing against him and I do appreciate him volunteering and serving the community, I just think that this is a really big conflict of interest. And I think it needs to be one or the other. It can't be both.
Okay. Keith?
Yeah, I saw a post online, Councilman Bowser just posted something, the same issue on Facebook, and I'll have to talk to the first selectman about it. I just want to say that as far as the mill is concerned, I've been involved in the mill issue for nearly 2 years, and then I've been involved in the mill commission. I was helping to bring the issue of the mill, the contamination at the mill to the town. I've been working a lot of hours, as Andy and other people know, on the mill committee. I would hate to step off of that committee because I think it's going to hurt the committee and hurt the impetus for the issues we're dealing with the Broadbrook Mill. And I honestly don't see any conflict between the issues because the goal on the Broadbrook Mill is to get rid of the contamination and make it safe for the town. And I'm not acting as town attorney on that. So honestly, I don't see any conflict. And then another issue that wasn't raised, but I'll just say I came in the other night because there's an issue about a potential fill gravel site, and I spoke out personally about that because it looks like there may be an issue of bringing contaminated soils into town. And I did some of my own research, and I came in and I spoke out against it. So I think that anybody that wants to raise an issue of conflict of interest, and I appreciate the comment tonight, and Mr. Bowser had some concerns, but like when you sit on the boards, all of you that are sitting on boards, you speak when you sit on the boards as a first selectman or as a board member, and when you speak as yourself as a member of the community, you do that too. We're all supposed to be pulling in the same direction. We're all supposed to be working as a team to solve the issues of the town. And so I don't take it personally that someone may say there's a conflict, but I'm going to look and see and think if there is a conflict, I'll talk to Bob about it. I certainly don't want to have a conflict for anything that I do for the town as town attorney versus anything else. I want to be highly ethical in everything I do. But I also recognize that at the same time, folks like myself that are working hard, particularly on issues about environmental contamination in the town, we're needed. and I don't want to lose my effort on that. So so I'm going to talk about, I guess that's the bottom line. Normally I wouldn't say anything, but I think that it's about me, and we need to work together in this town. We need to not be moving off in different directions, and we need to accomplish some stuff. And I think my energy on these committees is probably, honestly, I think it might be necessary, the input I have, just like Andy's input is necessary. Tom Talamini's coming, his input's necessary. Kurt, Monstream, all these people are, Jessica, everybody's contributing in their own unique ways, and without those contributions, I think we would not have a strong team. So anyway, I take your concerns into consideration. I'll talk to them.
Okay, further public participation? Yes.
Hope Carlson, 45 Winton Road. Never done this before. Terrified, shaking in my boots.
You're doing fine so far.
Huh?
You're doing fine so far.
I don't even know what to label it as. My mom's property is subject to foreclosure due to back taxes. I brought the situation into light with Mr. Bowser some months ago, and he was able to help me. Things have significantly changed since then. We are now being asked to provide statements to the Attorney General's office for fraud. The two attorneys that were supposed to be representing my mom are being investigated for a racketeering scheme that I inadvertently uncovered, apparently. Basically, I have a concern with the town attorney being abusive to the residents of this town, of his slanderous statements in court against my mother. And also, not only that, but he filed to go after my house again, knowing we're in the appeals process, full aware that there has been malpractice and that my mom is not getting due process, period. It's being denied to her, period. Like, we're gonna have a lawsuit on these two attorneys that's worth a lot of money. We are already getting offers from their malpractice insurance companies. I came here in good faith because I see this turning ugly for the town. We have the Attorney General looking at this now. This is beyond unethical. My mom is not getting a chance to protect her property because she was a victim to two attorneys who are in a racketeering scheme. Her bankruptcy was filed fraudulently. Attorney Kaplan is going on orders from the court based on that fraudulent filing. These two gentlemen cannot even produce my mother's signature on a napkin, never mind a bankruptcy petition. Yet she's being slandered in court by the town's attorney and called a serial filer. She's abusing the stay. She didn't even give these two permission to file. She didn't even give the filing attorney that filed these two bankruptcies permission to file them. And the town is looking at her like she's some criminal, and she's actually a victim. My family's been in this town for many generations. We've donated our service in your fire departments. I have taken up personally where the ambulance could not because they were out of scope of practice and had to call Enfield and held someone's brain together on the sidewalk on Depot Street. And this is, I don't understand how come nobody's listening. Nobody's caring that one of our residents got schemed by two crappy attorneys and we're gonna take her house anyways. My daughter, my fiance, me and my son moved in to help my mom. We live there now. My daughter's a senior in Rockville High School, FFA program. She wanted to give back to this town, okay? This is a child who's been recognized by the president of our country and has personal letters from him and correspondence between the two. She's going places. Look what we're doing to our kids. We had a means to fix this and it was taken away through no fault of my mom's. And why doesn't the town care about that? Why was it okay for us to care about this town since the 1950s and give our all, and now we have a legitimate legal issue? And there's no one. There's no one for us. That's beyond unfair, and if, as an attorney, I'm sure he can attest to the code of ethics for an attorney going against an opposing party, and we are beyond unethical. He's more than aware of the situation. He laughed at me on the phone and told me I couldn't even pull a permit to get a new furnace. What do I think I'm gonna do going up against him? We've asked the tax collector, Mrs. Kratovich,
Yeah.
I think, for inventory, like, when we were making our payments, my mom did have a bankruptcy, she was hurt at work, and she ended up becoming permanently disabled from that. She actually had to have cadaver tissue put in her shoulder. She can't work anymore. That's why the first bankruptcy failed. We can prove it. It is documented. She had to make taxes current while paying off the past due taxes. So in July, she would come in and make her tax payment according to the bankruptcy agreement. She won't even give us a record of what we've paid. Refuses to. My mom also had a working agreement with Samantha Lee when she was the tax collector, and she was up to date. Samantha Lee disappeared. The new tax collector took over, refused to honor the agreement. My mom was forced into bankruptcy, yet our town attorney stands there and calls her a serial filer and says she's abusing the stay. And then in his motions, he says that we haven't fought with him over amounts and everything like that. I can show you right here tonight what he filed on October 2nd. My house is appraised at less than $150,000. They want committees fees and legal fees in upwards of $14,000. That's what they've asked for. Last time it was $8 grand and it got approved. What is going on? Whose hands in whose pocket doing what? Because if I have to go to the news, I will. This is beyond ridiculous, and I'm coming to you in good faith because this is going to turn ugly for the town. This is going to turn ugly for the town, because if these two really are in a racketeering scheme, you don't think that's going to hit the news? And when it does, I will take my opportunity to bring this to light, because this is beyond anything I've ever seen in my life, and I'm actually ashamed that I'm from here because of the treatment my mother is getting and how she's just being brushed under the rug. I'm so sorry that my grandmother died in our house screaming because we promised she could die there, and that my mom basically became depressed to the point where she was hospitalized for a little while. She stopped caring about everything. She didn't pay her bills. Her brother's the executor. He was supposed to be responsible for property taxes. There's monies that were given to him that he never handed in for property taxes. We can prove that too. No one is listening to us. It's just give me your house. And now we're risking ruining my daughter's education in her senior year as an honor student in the FFA program, and recognized by the president of all people personally. If we lose our home, she loses her project. She can't transfer her FFA credits. She's worked her whole entire school career for this, and we're going to take it away from her. When we've tried multiple times to resolve the issue, and Attorney Kaplan just says we haven't. I've offered to sell my car. We've offered to subdivide our property. My mom has offered free nursing services to the town. My mom has offered a lump sum good faith payment of over $20,000 and $1,500 a month to solve this problem. No, 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 no. None of it's ever good enough, and now we're at a bill for the taxes, which is at 18%, and my mom's a veteran too, and they won't give her the veteran status in the tax office, by the way. She's also collecting Social Security. They won't give her that status or discount. Like, do you really want our house? You can have it, or we can come to an amicable resolution, because this getting ugly, it doesn't benefit me. I paid in the wrong one, it's gonna benefit me, don't worry about that. But it definitely doesn't give the town the kind of publicity that it's looking for. This is what we do to our residents. Come on to East Windsor, bring your families. I'd run for the door. This isn't how we treat people who have been here for over half a century. I grew up with your kids and grandkids. I went to school with some of you. Jason knows me from school. He tried to help. That was before we realized how crazy that, I didn't realize that all this was fraud and everything. I'm sorry, Jason. Yeah. I didn't realize it was as bad as it is. But now that it's coming to light and it's as bad as it is, and we've been contacted by the state's attorney's office and everything, I mean, what more do you people need to give someone time to collect themselves? Do you know what it's like sleeping every night wondering where your kids are going to live? Or what's going to happen to my daughter, who's got scholarships from everywhere, if she loses her high school credits? This isn't a debt we're denying. We've disputed the amounts because we can't get a copy of what we've paid to even make sense of any of it. And every time my mom did make a payment, an attorney would have to call and tell the tax collector to put it onto the current amount because she would forward it onto the principal amount. My mom almost got defaulted on her bankruptcy because it wasn't being recorded properly. I don't know what else to do, and I came to the board in good faith hoping for help before it gets ugly, because I don't want to see us on the news looking all crazy like that either. I grew up here. I loved this town. That's why I volunteered in the fire department. That's why my grandfather was the chief of Broadbrook. That's why my uncle was the lieutenant at the Point. That's why I joined as a junior here. That was my free time I gave the town. My family's free time we gave the town. And it just doesn't matter to anybody. Do you know what a slap in the face that is? To residents who have been here for more than 60 years.
Maybe it'd be a good idea that you contact the town attorney.
Well, we have more than one town attorney.
Yeah.
And the town attorney that I think she's referring to,
Mr. Kaplan?
and I think there's a law firm associated with that. And let me say that I had no control over that law firm for the last few years. I now have, and that's exactly why Keith is on board, because we're trying to disentangle ourselves with that, and we have other cases that are at least amounts to more money. But I can't go down that road. I have to.
I understand, and thank you for clarifying that. But the reason I came forward is because in good faith I'm coming to the board because this has a potential to turn ugly. I don't have to tell you that if it does turn ugly and I lose my house legally, I'm going to have recourse to come after the town and Attorney Kaplan. I don't want it to go that way. We want to work with you guys.
Could I make a suggestion, because you can't debate the,
Sorry.
litigation, and just to clarify, it's not, when you're saying the attorney was doing these things, and I just spoke before you were referring to me.
I was not.
Okay, so might I just suggest that let me check and see what's going on, and bring it back to an executive session at your next meeting, and then we can just get you some feedback on this issue.
Well,
but you can't discuss it right now because it's
but she has mentioned Attorney Kaplan, and perhaps he's the one that should come.
I am speaking about Attorney John Kaplan from Pullman and Conley, sir.
Right.
Okay. Well, whatever if you want me to do anything, let me know. But you can't have a discussion, obviously, because there's pending litigation. And I think the goal is always to try to find out so the board will have accurate information about what's going on.
Very good.
Bob, before we can do anything intelligent, we have to understand it. If the board's going to take any action at all, I don't know what the lady's even talking about. I really don't. And to make any intelligent decisions or help to solve a problem, I have to understand, and I don't. We have to find some way of understanding it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if there's a way to put the brakes on it to do some fact-finding things. I would be more than happy to provide what I could to the board. I pretty much have copies of everything because I've detangled this myself.
We must have those on file here also.
I don't know if you have everything, but it's
I guess
definitely a
all
mess.
I'd like to say is, I understand, and it sounds like a bad story.
As of October 2nd, Attorney Kaplan has filed for a new sale date. That's where we're at.
Well, we'll have to look into it.
To be part of a solution, we have to understand.
I totally understand, and that's exactly what I was hoping for, was someone to scrutinize this, and not just me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further public participation. Yes.
I have some input. Kirk Bond Street, 278 South Main Street. I would like to just say that, through some meetings that we've had recently, the Ag Commission is really, we voted to push forward the farm building and tax exemption stuff for the buildings and land stuff in farm machinery for Ag Commission. And it's nothing that we want to, it's not on fire, but we definitely want to know that, let you know that the commission's on board. And I know a lot of selectmen have talked positive about it. So we're moving forward on that, and I respect all of the input that, a lot of the selectmen have put in for, and I just want to make sure that that's noted.
Good.
Yeah, in fact, you should come to my office if you have a chance, because I have the bill on my desk, and I know there was you were, the commission was debating on dollar amounts and things, but
Yep.
if you're ready to move forward, that's great.
Yeah, it was at the assessor's office today, and so hopefully everything kind of moves forward, and I think that's a positive thing.
Good. Yes.
Regis of the Tenway Service Driver. On your agenda tonight, you have candidate to be reappointed to Park Hill, Alexandria Kamifa-Balsa. I would encourage Board of Selectmen to honor that request. She's been a valuable asset since she's been on the board. She works well with the rest of us on that committee. She has a lot to offer as we move forward, some things that are happening up there. So if you would please consider to reappoint her for that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Further public participation? Okay, hearing none, move on to approval of the minutes. I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 20th. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is there any communication?
Well, I could do it under here, under the comments after, I guess. I'll do it in the comments when we get
Okay.
there.
Okay, I have no communication. Board and commission resignations and appointments. Would anybody like to,
I'll move to appoint Alexandria Bauza to the East Windsor Housing Authority for a term expiring October 1st, 2023.
is there a second?
Seems like a
Second.
long ways away.
Okay, discussion?
I'm going to be supportive.
Jason, you're not as dumb as you look.
Haven't been married that long, but
He's a smart man.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. East Windsor 250th.
termination report.
It's done! Well, the events are done, but we're going to keep our books open until probably January. We're going to still continue to sell merchandise at the Town Hall, the Broadbrook Library, and at the Trolley Museum for their festivities throughout basically now until Christmas time. So we're going to keep selling merchandise, and then we'll close the books in January. So I'll come back in January to let everybody know where we're going to distribute our remaining funds to. I don't have that final number yet, but we still have funds available, so we're going to donate to different organizations in town and go from there. So, but I just want to say thank you to everybody from town, out of town, and all the selectmen for being super supportive with all this, and especially to the town for donating and giving us that seed money originally, because without that, we probably would not have been as successful as we were. So,
You did a great job, thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, I had a
Your
good
committee
time.
really did a
So,
good job.
yeah, our committee we're a great committee. We all got along.
Yeah.
There's Kurt back there, but yeah, we all got along as a committee, so I think it'll be bittersweet that it's ending. We'll miss each other, but it's also relaxing now, so.
Yeah, I have something.
Yeah, so.
I talked to a person who was flying a drone around.
Yes, we should be getting that video in a week or so.
Well, I got a video. I mean, I don't know if this is it, but.
No, it's not it, because we don't have it yet.
Okay.
So you have something.
Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
And that might, it says at the end, this is the band we had playing. Stray Dogs. I think.
Is that me?
Here's the star right there.
There you go.
Stray Dogs. Somebody special's coming up here. Here she is, right there.
Can you send that to me, or
Yes, I can.
get that to me?
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Gotta shut it down.
Yeah, shut it down.
We won't quit.
We gotta study that, look for the bean bags.
Rebecca, you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
The whole town should be proud of you.
Absolutely.
So you can take us off the agenda now until I let you know.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, the casino. And we'll have public participation on this too, but I think first I'd like to say a couple things because things have changed. And I guess basically a judge said that the Interior Department didn't have to approve the Mashantucket Pequot Agreement. And so I got the bill that was passed by the Senate, and it's Bill 957. And on page 16 of that bill out of 20, it says, such authorization shall not be effective unless the following conditions are met. And it lists a lot of conditions. And one of the conditions is, I'll read it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but yet it does. It says, the amendments to the Mashantucket Pequot procedures, the Mashantucket Pequot Memorandum of Understanding, the Mohegan Compact, the Mohegan Memorandum of Understanding are approved or are deemed approved by the Secretary of the United States Department of Interior pursuant to the Federal Indian Regulations Act, PL 100 to 497, and 25 USC 2001 et seq, and its implementation regulations. If such approval is overturned by a court in final judgment which is not appealable, the authorization provided under this section shall cease to be effective. So we're not there yet, but it looks like if the Interior Department doesn't approve that Mashantucket Pequot Memorandum of Understanding, then this bill that authorized the casino to be here in East Windsor would no longer be valid. And so,
Can you quote the section again?
yes, it's section 14, and it's section 14 is called, the purpose of this section in section 15, and it goes on and gives definitions. And so the first thing I read was C under 6, and then there's conditions under C. And that is number 2 under C.
Yeah, you're looking at the bottom of 16, the amendments to the Mashantucket Pequot procedures, the Mashantucket Pequot Memorandum of Understanding. So they have a couple of options still that are available to them. I think it was a district court judge that ruled, so they have several layers of appeals that they can go through. They also could change the law. And so far, MMCT is 2-0 in the General Assembly, once in securing passage of Senate Bill 957 in 2017, and a second time in the most recent legislative session where they brushed back attempts by MGM to get a license approved for Bridgeport Casino. So I think our odds went down, but I don't think that we're out of the game.
No,
And I hate to keep using gambling puns. There's just no way to talk about this without doing that. I've tried for 2 years. You just can't do it.
No, because there's probability involved. And I've talked to David Capiello and Andrew Dova, and I know Andy's talked to Connor Hurley, and they're still very positive. Of course, they would be, because they have to.
But that's probably snake oil on the water, you know, with that. How can they not be positive? That's their job.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true.
Unless they've decided to say we will not go forward, they have to be positive.
And circumstances have changed. MGM is open. MGM also bought a casino in somewhere near Rye, New York, that makes a Bridgeport casino no longer feasible for them. So some of the arguments that they've made over the last couple of years are somewhat empty.
You know, I sure don't know, but I think the Bridgeport Casino was just a red herring anyway.
Oh yeah, that was a Hail Mary.
I think some bad news, however, is that we have two gubernatorial candidates who are from downstate Connecticut, and I don't think they much care about whether there is a casino in East Windsor or not, except they really should care because there's money there.
Yeah, I think whoever is elected in November is going to be looking at it from a state perspective, not a NIMBY perspective. And Stefanowski's from Madison, which is south central, not southwestern. So anyway, I think they're still playing.
Yeah,
well, Connor Hurley was very positive, and I said, Connor, you're the eternal optimist. And he said, we've talked a lot, Andy, we talk often, and he said, I'm just giving you my opinion. He said, I'm still in Florida, I'm still working on another project for the, I think he works, for Mashing Tuckets, I'm not sure.
I thought he worked for MMCT. I didn't know he was tried out.
I could be wrong, but he's working on some project in Florida for one or both of the Indian casinos. And he confessed that I may be a little out of touch because I'm not sitting in meetings these days, but he said, I don't think that's a third strike. That's how I started out. I said, you know, did we just take a third strike early, Connor? And he said, I don't think so. He said, and I said, you know, let me just be a dummy and throw out something. The Mohegan Sun have been approved. It seems like not much of a step to have them build a casino with an investment partner, 50-50 investment partner called the Mashing Tuckets, and go forward. We've got an approval for the, for them. Now, how would the legislature view that? It's still the combination of the two the two Indian tribes. And he said, well, I'm not a lawyer. Don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure there are a lot of people scratching their head today figuring a way to get around it. That's all. That was a 15-minute conversation 3 days ago.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, elephant in the room, that's been there all the time, and the reason it has passed the legislature is thousands of jobs are being lost, and if we don't have the casino, we're going to lose those jobs. They're gone from Connecticut. They're paying income taxes in Massachusetts. There's also regular taxes to the state of $70 million a year that we're losing now, and revenue to the state of about $280 million. All that's gone if it's not built here. That's a lot of incentive to somebody who cares about the economics and the jobs. So.
Connor did say we're already starting to see the effect of the MGM casino in Springfield.
In the Foxwood and Mohegan Sun bottom line of revenue.
Now, I have no idea what the cause and effect are, but there was an article in the paper just a week or so ago after MGM opened, and for that period of performance that included the opening of the MGM casino, Foxwood was down 1.2%, and Mohegan was down like 1.5%. Not big numbers, but you sure wouldn't want to do that every month, or you're down 15% in a year, you know?
Yeah,
well,
that's true.
1.2%, 1.5% aren't big numbers, but when you attach them to $300 million
Oh yeah,
in revenue,
that was my point. Exactly. So it is not unmeaningful to have that happen, and
If it continues, it'll be material.
And I would hope that someone in the legislature will have, take off their shoes and count to 20.
I don't know if that. Well, anyway, there's another thing. Is there any more discussion? Anybody? Yes.
Yeah, the last meeting I attended to, we had a representative from MMCT who was here. He had indicated that they anticipated that the ruling was going to come through, but he couldn't specify a time frame. But he did say they were moving forward because they were going to planning and zoning to get approval on some stuff. Well, in the paper the following week, the 10 days, don't quote me on time frame, but they asked for an extension on the plans until March of 2019, which leads me to believe there must have been some type of anticipation on that ruling for them to put that off. But in the meantime, the property is sitting up there, and if anybody has gone down that first entrance into the old Walmart area, there's all kinds of brush coming over into the road. It's not being maintained, and I don't know whose responsibility that is. But if they're not going to be doing anything till March 2019, then maybe somebody for the town should go in there and cut some of that brush that's sticking out into the driveway before there's accidents taking place or damage going to be reported. I'll just throw that out there. At this stage of the game, on the rough draft of the draft that was submitted on what was going to town meeting at some point, I would suggest that maybe we hold off on that and put our efforts into things that are currently happening, such as the concerns with the Millbrook area, the contaminations. I listened to the Scannick River details. Those things are important to this town. And if you listen to rumors around town, there's construction companies along 140 that are accepting dirty dirt. Another company that just was some debate going on whether or not they should have their special use permit given so that they can add more dirty dirt to it. I have to believe the runoff from the places on 140 that are taking that dirt has got to be contributing something to our waterways. So I think there's more important things for us to look at. If they're postponing until March, maybe we should push that ahead to at least the first of the year and start looking at what is affecting the town in immediate today. Because in the paper also it says that Hamilton Sunstrand, whoever you want to call them, UTC, whatever name they're going under these days, aren't in agreement to change anything up there. So we're back to where we were 20 years ago again. And I think the Board of Selectmen need to take, primarily the Selectmen needs to take an upper hand and call meetings to get that rectified. Because right now it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, and no disrespect, you guys have done an excellent job, I'm not criticizing, but at this point it's a town issue, and it's got to be resolved. So I think we can let this fix. Because their own admission pushed it off to March 2019, that maybe we should push it off and start doing what needs to be affected. And I won't get into any legal stuff that's going on in town, but the attorneys handle that. But I think there's more pressing things in the short term that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Okay. Paul.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. The delay in the filing of the Mylars is not an unusual circumstance, very common. That is the filing of the final version of the plans that go into the town clerk's office to be put in the vault. And that happens a lot, that things get delayed slightly in case there's any revisions. The ordinance, I could see proceeding and work on it, but it wouldn't have the same immediacy that it did, because this is going to take a little longer than anticipated. There is at least one legislator who has suggested redoing the bill to, you could take this memo of understanding baloney and turn it into a compact if you wanted to. And there's a direction you can go, and now it's back to BIA where they don't have much to stand on. It's correctable. It's a matter of doing it the right way, in the right venue, and making it happen. And I think it probably will. It's going to take a little longer. That's nothing new. It's a legal issue.
Okay, I hope so. Anybody else want to talk about the casino? What I'd like to do, and I know people have, I know Maria suggested we don't do it, but in your packets, I put out the ordinance that the Board of Finance, the wording they suggested. So I would like us to rescind the motion we made to create the ordinance, and I'd like to have approve the ordinance that the Board of Finance suggested. And that'll take probably, depending on how long we debate this, and we'll see how that goes, but a few minutes. And so if we take a few minutes, then we'll have an ordinance that is in agreement between the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen, and then we'll be done with it until we have to take up how the money is to be distributed. And that doesn't, as Paul said, it doesn't have to be done quickly. And let's see. The ordinance, the only thing changed in the ordinance is number 2, and we read that at our last meeting. It says the Casino Impact Fund shall ensure that issues, this is number 2, associated with the casino are dealt with in a manner that supports the growth of East Windsor, quality of life, infrastructure, and public services. The procedure and process will be determined at a later date through a separate ordinance. So, does anybody want to?
I have just one comment. In that last sentence, where it says procedures and processes, process of dispersal, should that be in there?
Yeah, it should be, because it doesn't say what it is.
Okay.
Procedure and process for disbursements.
All right. Then the procedure and process for disbursement. Okay. Will be determined at a later date through a separate ordinance.
And then, frankly, I'm very happy with it. It is establishing a checking account. We all talked about that. And I think what Sarah read in, about a later ordinance is a good thing. Okay. People should know that. And an aside for a moment, I'm willing to take a shot at drawing up a draft for that. Now, that doesn't cost the board any time or anything like that. I don't charge much for that kind of thing.
Draw up the draft for what?
For the second ordinance.
Oh, sure.
Just so that we keep the ball rolling downhill. My rate's not very high.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy.
But your work is excellent.
Yeah, I work hard, and I'd be more than happy to take a shot at the second one. And I agree with Maria, it doesn't have to be done tomorrow or anything like that, but I hate to kick the can down the road. That's not been what I've done for 100 years, okay? We should proceed. It doesn't have to be done on a priority basis, but we should come out the other side with something that we're all happy with.
Okay.
We don't have a no, so we should do that. We don't have a no, so we should do that.
Yeah, we should, period.
All right. Jason, you want to say anything?
I think that we shouldn't be doing these as separate things. I think that we have the benefit of time now. I think that if Andy's willing to take a stab at working on part 2, we should wait for part 2 and pass it all together. The reason I think that, in part, is because what happens if this passes and we never get to or don't actually pass part 2? How is the money managed at that point? Who decides how and what it's spent on, in what time frame, through what process? this is creating a problem by a lack of policy. It's a combined document.
Whatever.
I'm gonna try hard not to take that personal, Paul.
Will you shoot that parrot?
Okay, further, I'm going to make a motion. So, I move to rescind the motion to approve the ordinance regarding the creation of the Town of East Windsor Casino Impact Fund approved by the Board of Selectmen at the Board of Selectmen meeting on on February 15, 2018. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, I move to approve the ordinance regarding the creation of the Town of East Windsor Casino Impact Fund, which was approved. I'll take that out. Impact Fund, which is presented tonight and moved to a town meeting. And the presented with the change of wording that would say the procedure and process for disbursement will be determined at a later date through a separate ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
What is the urgency?
We should do what we say we're going to do on a schedule.
We should do it right, what we say we're going to do on the schedule. This is, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a cheeseburger today.
This thing's been hanging around for near a year.
Yep,
We should
longer
act-
than that.
We should act on it.
And it's still not finished. So we're going to ask people to trust us that we're going to get the second part right. And that in the absence of us doing that, the money's going to sit somewhere uncontrolled.
Going to sit someplace unused until we work out the right process. And that's okay.
How long will that take?
The fact that it's sitting there and there's no process will force the process to get done more readily. If you don't have, if you have it just plain sitting in the general fund, there's no urgency. I think we should act like we want to do it.
We got it, we have a place to store it.
Can I ask a
Work
question?
on that.
Make a checkbook.
Yeah?
Not now.
Oh,
Okay, is there further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Now you can take ask.
It's too late, so go ahead and jump in.
okay, when is this money coming?
It
Isn't
may never come.
Right, so why are you voting on part of what is going to happen if we're never going to get it yet?
Well, I'll tell you why, why I did it. I believe that that money, if it ever does come, should be put in a separate fund.
Oh, absolutely, I do too.
And that's all this.
That's all this does, Barb. It just puts it in a separate fund.
Now,
If
I'm
it
not
ever
going
comes.
to, yeah, I'm not going to get into trying to determine out how we're going to distribute it. I just want it in a separate fund, that's all. Okay, that's all I have. Does anybody else want to talk about the casino in any way?
Just that, I will have a draft for our next meeting of the second ordinance. And we should work hard to get that so everybody's happy with that.
Yeah, that'd be a change.
Hmm?
We haven't been 5-0 on anything.
You're right, we have.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Paul Anderson again. Okay, I think you're gonna have a tough time getting this approved by the townspeople, because it's incomplete. And with the delays, you have more time to put the rest of it together, and it makes more sense. A single ordinance that defines what it's talking about is what you need, and 2 ordinances is never gonna work. I don't care what you do, because an ordinance can be revised. It can be rescinded. A lot of things can happen, but you got 2. So if anything happens to one, it negates the effect of the other, and that is a legal issue. It has nothing to do with what you think is right or what you think or how it should be. It becomes a complicated issue over having 2 separate entities that need to work together, but they're not together.
But Paul,
So that's just an opinion.
but Paul, let me just say, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I cannot possibly support this.
Okay.
It's impossible.
I think that the second ordinance may well change. I think the fact that you would like to have a checking account, a separate checking account for these funds, will not change. You know, we want, if you have a single ordinance, we're going to want to say that we want to put this to a separate fund. So I see ordinance number 1 being unmovable building block. I see the second one being lots of discussion and changing. It should change. We're going to know more in a couple of years after the casino is built, if it happens, and 5 years down the road. And that second ordinance will change because we're smarter, because there are different needs that we weren't smart enough to decide how to put into the ordinance number 2. So I see ordinance number 2 being something that's a good variable, something that will change with time because we get smarter. But having said that, I do not think we should change the fact that we want a red, white, and blue checkbook for the money.
And I'll just follow with what you said and what everybody said here. We're not in a hurry, and you don't have to bring it to a town meeting, and we shouldn't bring it to a town meeting until we're pretty sure the casino's coming, until they break ground, until they give us a plan and get a building permit. So I'm just going to put this on the shelf and we'll bring it out later. And Andy O'Reilly give us some ideas maybe, but I'm kind of through with this. That's my person.
If the town meeting's not going to act on it, why did we? What sense does that make?
It makes no sense at all to you, Jason. That's
No,
for
it
sure.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Show of hands, does that make sense to anybody?
There's an ordinance on motions that you make at this meeting. You only have so many days in order to bring it to town meeting.
Okay, well,
So you might want to check on that.
Okay, we'll check on
I want to
that.
say it's 14 days, but don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Okay. May I make
Yeah,
a
sure.
statement? Okay. The intent of an ordinance is not to be a variable. No ordinance should be a variable. It is the law of the town and how the town operates. So the next area of this cannot define how much money goes here, how much money goes there. That's nonsense. You have to define a process
Right.
for how that is dealt with outside of that ordinance.
Correct.
And that has nothing to do with the words of the ordinance. The words of the ordinance never have to change if they're done right.
But they have to. You know, with additional time and more experience, I could see us wanting to amend that ordinance because we don't know all of what could happen. However, the fact that we all believe we should have a separate fund, a separate checkbook for this, no one seems to disagree with that. And we should do that. We should do it. But Paul, you're absolutely right. If we do it right, we'll define a process which will last for a long time. I would like to submit, however, that in 2018 and 19, we are probably not going to create the perfect document. There are very few things that are perfect in our lives. And I think that in 2020 or 22 or something like that, somebody will say we could do it a little better, and we could, and they will. But not, unless we want to not have a separate checkbook, that won't change.
What happened with the fact that the Board of Finance already has a separate account for this, which has nothing to do with the general ledger, and the money would sit there anyhow? What difference does it make? I think we're just playing with words here, we're not getting anywhere. I don't think it's accomplishing anything at all. It's like a pipe dream. I think you have to put all the detail together, that's my opinion, put all the detail together and do it, and even if it gets altered, so what? It still can be all in one ordinance, and part of it can be altered down the road as necessary. Makes no difference. So that's, okay, there you go. Yeah, you won't get my vote for it, it won't happen.
Okay. We'll move on to tax ordinances. There are three tax.
What did I do the first one, review the process?
My mistake. Yes, review bid process. Okay. That was in your packet, and I've heard that like right now, I think the number 2 in the bid process, which says purchases over $25,000, require sealed bids prior to purchase. And right now, what happens is if it's something for the Public Works Department, they'll open the sealed bids there. For something for the Police Department, they'll open the bids at the Police Department, and I've seen bids opened here in the First Selectman's office. So, but other people say they all should be here. So that's one thing we could change. But let's have some discussion on the bid process.
I looked over, the procedures. These were established in 2011, and the first section in the bid items, purchases over 5,000 will require 3 written quotations prior to purchase. There's really no language in here about procedures, and that's really what we should have. In this first one, I think it should be it should be 1A, and then 1B. I think it should say the 3 written quotations from the responding agency will be attached to the purchase order. So then that is held in the treasurer's office. So for audit purposes and to have a main process here where things are centralized, I think that's very important. A town has grown, and I think that there should be some oversight in terms of having everything in one location. Not that they don't have copies of it, they will, but it should be that the treasurer's office looks at that. They did get to 3, so that gives her the right to start getting the checks ready to be mailed. Under the 2 purchase over 20 that would require sealed bids from the prior to purchase, I would label that as A. B, I would add to that with B, sealed bids are to be returned to the office of the first selectman and date and time stamped. C, sealed bids will be opened at the office of the first selectman and the bid requesting agency. And D, the first selectman's office will maintain the original bid copies with copies to the requesting agency.
Could you say C again, please?
I'm sorry?
What was C again?
C is the first selectman's office will maintain the original sealed bids with copies for the requesting agency.
That was D, wasn't it?
No, C. Oh yeah, D, I'm sorry.
So I was asking about C.
C, okay. Sealed bids will be opened at the office of the first selectman and the bid requesting, or the agency requesting the bids.
We're
Okay.
open now.
whoever sent them out.
We don't have a bid room? We don't just do them here?
No.
That's why they should be.
In fact, most of them are open at Public Works.
So why the change?
Well, I don't know. Well, why the change?
Well, for audit purposes, that they'd all be in one location. And we'll get into audits later on, but the town does need a town-wide operational audit. And that's not being done, and I think that having it centralized where the public can come and see these bids that are being opened, as well as those that are participating in submitting the bids. So it's all done in one location, and the originals are maintained here. You gotta have some controls.
Okay, in D, the only thing the question about D is, the bids could be kept in the first selectman's office, but maybe they should be kept in the treasurer's office. I don't know.
Well,
I was gonna ask if you had the capacity for that. I don't know how many bids we get a year. Do you know how many bids?
Not exactly.
Let's start with an easier question. Do you know how many bids we solicit a year? Instead of bid responses, which could be considerably more.
I don't think there's that many.
No, I don't know exactly. I haven't looked. I would say 10.
How long do we need to retain that documentation? What's the retention schedule? Is it 3 years, 5 years,
I don't know.
perpetuity?
The auditor should tell you that.
Yeah, okay.
But that's a question we really should know before because you're going to be sitting on bids, but.
I agree. So I think that I can see there's more work to be done, but Charlie's made a good start. And so I'll take what you have and we'll get some more answers.
Okay?
Okay, further discussion? Okay, now we can go to the tax ordinances. So these were ordinances that were needed to allow the assessor to give tax relief under certain circumstances. You want to talk about any, well, there's one that we have to talk about, and that would be the additional exemption for veterans or spouses eligible for exemption under Section 1281 of the Connecticut General Statutes. And in Section 1, we can and should choose a dollar amount. The assessor recommended $3,000 as a...
How much, Bob?
$3,000.
$3,000.
As an amount that would, their tax, the property would be reduced, be exempt for $3,000. Right before it was discovered that we needed these ordinances, we were giving them $1,000. But the statute, that section 1281, puts as a, because it was, I'm not sure the date that it was originally done, but it was amended over time, and under certain circumstances, it would say that it would be tied to the grand list in some cases, and in some cases they would get 50% more under certain circumstances. So she felt that $3,000 would cover everything and make it the same for everybody, and so there wouldn't be any need to look at the grand list to see how much it's grown or things like that.
That's a $3,000 reduction in taxes.
No, a $3,000 reduction in property.
In property value.
In property value.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Assessment.
Assessment.
Assessment is a unique number.
Yep.
So I gotta kind of go on what she's recommended.
I think it's good.
She's the expert. think there's all that many to begin with.
That many what?
Exemption- Many exemptions.
No, it might be 5. There are 3 of them.
So am I doing the math right, that that's $93 a year?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Is that a fairly standard number? Is that what towns do?
Well, and that's what she talked about, because when the people look at this, if your grand list, well, it depends. If your tax rate goes up, if it's tied to your tax rate, then you get more if the taxes went up. So that's why she felt that we should make it $3,000. You can make it more, I think Jason's.
No, I don't have any problem with 3. I just think that we should do enough research to kind of be where other people are.
Well, it depends on, like I say, a city like New Britain or somewhere has a very high tax rate. Hartford has a very high tax rate. So they would want to give a person more of a break than we have. Our tax rate has been fairly constant. And that's what I think we could make it up to $20,000 if we wanted. We could do. We have some. There is a limit to it. But
It's the maximum amount allowed under section 1218L by more than $25,000. So you could do a pretty hefty amount.
You could do it to 25K?
No, you can do their qualifying household income plus 25K.
Okay.
So even using Hartford as an example with a $3,000 marker. So let's say their mill rate's 75. That still is only saving $215 a year. If I can do the math right, I'm not sure I did. 235, 235, 25, 225.
The $3,000 reduction in assessed value does not equate into very much savings for a taxpayer.
No. So right now, it's at 1,000?
it's at 1,000.
Right now, it's at 0.
Yeah, right now. Last year it was at 1,000. So
I'm okay with the 3. Unless you think we need to do more research there.
I don't think we do. Well, I wouldn't do more research. I'm comfortable with it too. But
Well, I am too. I was looking for consistency with other towns around us. You know, the towns like Enfield and Allington and you know, Windsor Locks and so on.
What's the median property tax bill?
the mean or the median?
Median.
And
For a single-family home.
well, I'm gonna say, say that. Repeat your question.
What is the median household, single-family household tax payment, tax obligation each year? The reason I'm asking is, so I'll use me. I pay $4,400 a year in property taxes on my property, which is 1 acre, so 1,600 square foot.
What's the value? So that you can figure that you can reverse that. Your property's probably assessed for
210 or so. I've assessed that.
I think
it'd be more than that, Jason. I think you're assessed, maybe your value increases that, but 70% is of the value is the assessment.
I
Yeah,
think
so
the average home value in East Windsor is like $180K.
So it's
Okay, so but the point I'm getting to is when you're talking about the amount that you're going to forgive, I'm not sure if this is an abatement per se or not, but if you're talking about the amount you're going to credit off somebody's tax bill, if that becomes 40% of their property tax, that's a different analysis than if it's 4% of what the tax value is. So in order to find that sweet spot where there's...
I think what Andy says is probably correct.
It's about $180K.
Yeah, 180K for the assessed or the,
Let's see if I can find it.
probably the value, market value.
Market value.
Yeah,
Market value, market value.
Yeah, so say that, then we put it more like 150,000 for
Yep.
for the assessed value. And so a $3,000 reduction wouldn't be that much.
No. Which is doing
Do it at what though?
up to 3,000.
That's $90, you're saving people $90 a year.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
the
what the
30.
that's what the assessor recommends.
Where is this tool?
I think you're somewhere,
2,500 is the per capita tax.
I think you're someplace like 180K or something like, or $180 or something like that. That's what you're talking.
The per capita tax, that would include autos, right?
Probably. But so would this, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Property tax. So it doesn't, I don't see a distinction between,
It doesn't distinguish between property and,
yeah.
and
All right, so if, let's say it's $5,000 is the annual household, just because now we have something that we can point at. 25.
But I think this is, you have to qualify, there's the income,
Right, but property tax is an income based, it's an assessment based on the valuation.
But that
It's random.
ordinance, to qualify, it says, additional exemption for veterans or spouses eligible for exemptions under section 1281 of the Connecticut General. So they have to be eligible under 1281, and 1281 could have an income limit.
Yeah, it has an income cap.
So-
Yeah, but your property, the property tax you owe it doesn't consider your income at all.
That's true, but
No, but in order to get it-
you can't qualify for this unless you have very low income.
Correct.
Okay, so
I don't understand your point.
I don't understand yours.
So what I'm trying to get at, if you're talking about a number to insert into this that we're going to use as a tax forgiveness amount, it needs to be meaningful enough to actually benefit people. $3,000 gives people $90 in their pocket. That's $1.50 a week. So it doesn't really do all that much in terms of providing any assistance. On the other hand, you don't want to abate half of what their property tax owes because they are, there's services provided. So there's got to be some meeting in the middle there between.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if their property tax is, well, let's say it's $180,000. Well, what did you say?
5,000.
5,000. Then, if they have such a low income that they qualify for this, they couldn't afford to pay their $5,000 property taxes at all. So,
Why is that? So one of the consistent arguments against the property tax system statewide is that it's an arbitrary determination without any consideration for a homeowner's ability to pay. You take the grand list, you divide it by whatever, and it doesn't consider your income. There's no income consideration when the property tax is assessed. That's the argument for the unfairness of the property tax system. So if you're looking to do something that's going to be meaningful to seniors, you have to find that middle ground in between a token thing that's not really doing anything. So at the $90 level, we're going to forgive 1.8% of their tax obligation.
Well, I
Or-
don't know if it's, yes, I think it would be more like $180 or $200.
So if it's $180 or $200 and you can't use the 3,000 number, you need to use the $6,000 number.
No, I'm saying the 3,000 gives you 180.
3,000 times 3 times 31 is 93, so it's 90. It's
It says for 100, why did you want 3 times 31? So that's for $100,000, you would get $90. For $200,000 house, you would get $180.
No. So if you're taking, our mill rate is 31 mils, so 31 is constant. The $3,000 of the assessed value that you're going to take off, regardless of if it's a $600,000 house or a $120,000 house, you're still only taking 6,000 or 3,000. You're not taking a percentage.
You make a good point, I understand. Yeah.
So if we're going to do this, and we should do this, let's do something that's going to be impactful to people who need it, but not something that's going to be like zeroing out somebody's property tax bill. So that's what I'm talking about in terms of needing to find that middle space.
You want to make it 6,000?
I'll be the token Democrat. How about 10? I'd stick with that. Because think about what that math does.
I know, I hear what you're saying.
That's $310 a year.
I'll go with 6. And if you can talk the other people into it, and we can always come back and change this ordinance, as Paul pointed out, they can be changed. I'm gonna go with 6.
How did I get in there?
I don't know. But it's up to Andy and Charlie, I would say.
What are we playing, Price is Right?
By the way, if I have to sway the votes, I'm going to lose. So
This is not for seniors. This is
Andy's on a
veterans.
fixed income.
Well, same thing.
You said veterans. You said seniors.
The last one was for seniors, or the next this section of the
Yeah, there's
statute
one-
references
there's
all.
one for seniors.
It's all the same.
What do you think is reasonable?
I think 10's reasonable. That's $310 a year. That is about 8% of your property tax bill. And these are for people who are, as Bob pointed out, generally in a pretty difficult financial way.
Did it say in here, did we have at one time, how many people actually get this?
It didn't say it here, no.
We had it somewhere.
At a point in time, but
Just very few.
I don't remember. I couldn't quote you anything on that. And I would suggest making the same changes to the other two policies.
I don't, we can.
Why?
That's how we read the others.
There's nothing prohibitive about that. We'd just be amending all three of them instead of just the one.
Okay, I'm gonna have, I don't understand why it's written in this $1,000. I'd have to study the statute.
I think it's just an old ordinance.
What we're really saying is, you give the person like $300 against a tax bill that's like
Average is $500.
between $4,500.
$500 is something meaningful. You know, that's more than a cup of coffee a week. But they still have a sizable
It should be
obligation.
something they recognize as being meaningful.
And it should be helpful. The whole point of it is to be
And if
helpful.
the people are in the low end of income, it would certainly help them. And I agree that small numbers like $100, $150, $100 is probably not meaningful.
No.
why don't we do that, Bob? Why don't we shoot for something like a $300
All right, so,
reduction against a
yeah, I don't have a problem.
$4,000, $4,500 tax bill?
I'm not that married to any particular
Yeah.
number, so.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So
So
what
to
did-
do that, you gotta have something like a 10K number.
Okay,
Back of the envelope, yeah.
all right,
Sounds okay to me.
okay, so,
Put it
but
in
we
this
can
down.
vote on this ordinance then.
We should amend all three.
I hear what you're saying, but I personally am not going to amend the others until I talk to the assessor, because I don't understand why she didn't tell me that we could adjust them. So I'm going to have to find out why she said that before I would vote.
Okay, so here's what I would throw out there as a point to that and then a solution to that. She probably didn't indicate anything about the dollar amounts because the other two already specified a dollar amount instead of having a blank. The blank is problematic, that's clear.
I don't know.
So-
Well, you use the word probably, and I don't like to
So-
pass dollar ordinances on probablys.
Well, believe me, I'm pretty meticulous myself. However, what I think, because these are dealing with three different classes of special concern, we really ought to make sure that there is, what signal do you send by upping the amount to, or setting an amount at $10,000 for one class and leaving it at $1,000 for another class and having it at $3,000 for a third class? I mean, and we're talking about persons who are permanently and totally disabled, veterans or their spouses, and persons who are blind. It seemed, so what I'm suggesting is, if I totally understand your perspective of wanting to talk with the assessor and finding out where she's coming from, so let's park this and make sure that we're making the same adjustments to all three of those groups in an equitable way. Otherwise,
Okay,
that doesn't look really great otherwise.
all right. I don't have a problem with
I'm
that.
motion to table this until the next scheduled meeting when
All right.
First Selectman can gather the needed information. Anybody second that?
Second. I second it.
Okay, moving
All
on.
those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now, going on to property sale. And I'll pass these out. This I didn't put in the package. Andy, if you want to.
82 grams.
Didn't we sell this one already?
We tried.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, this one is on Wells Road, and we had a offer, I'm not sure, I'll say 6 months or more ago, and it was for, I believe, $5,000, and the guy did perk tests and it wouldn't perk, so he couldn't build it. Yes.
You have another copy you can give to Peg so she knows what's going on?
Actually, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have it.
She can have mine when we're done.
Well, send it down. I can come with you.
Yeah, so, the person who lives at 134, next door neighbor wants to buy the property. He's offered $2,000 for it. And this property was foreclosed in 2009. So it would be good to give it to sell it to the neighbor and put it back on the tax roll. So we have an offer.
Is there anything on it? Are there any structures?
No.
It won't perk, so there's no structures, right?
Yes. It's also a non-conforming building lot, but it won't perk, so you can't build on it.
So it's an unbuildable lot.
Yes.
Will it be a buildable lot once it's united with its neighbor there?
No, there's a home on the neighbors, and that's not a buildable lot. Can't build anything on that.
But is it 55 or 53?
Well, 54 is the one that's being sold,
Right.
and 55 is the one that's purchasing it.
Do you know where the house is on 55?
And what do you mean, do I know where the house is? Has I seen it?
Where on the lot, is it?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Front, rear, central? I don't know this area, well,
Kind of
I
in the
can't
front.
tell from the map. What?
Kind of in the front of the property.
Yeah, that's true. They're not too far back, but they are fairly deep lots. So
Are they wetlands?
So this was a foreclosure on this because
Yes.
of the tax?
yes,
Okay. How long ago was that?
and 2009, so that
Oh.
was 9 years ago.
And we had a buyer who backed out because there was no, he could not get a
He
percolation.
wanted to build on it, and he
And
couldn't. He
the
couldn't.
percolation test was no good.
That's true. It's wet.
And what was he willing to pay for it?
It's 5, wasn't it?
He wanted 5, to pay 5. I think he did sign up for 6,500 because I bumped up the price when I heard he wanted to come to planning and zoning and build a house.
Okay.
I mean, the lot is as big as the one that the person has.
Yeah. They'll have about they'll have just over an acre if they have a boat.
Maybe have attorney's fees in this thing to transfer it and all that. I think we should get at least 2,500.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Has the guy made an offer?
Yeah, $2,000. Well, actually, I don't think
Is this something we should be talking about in open session, or is this really an executive session thing as a real estate matter?
Well,
The vote has to be in open session, but if we're gonna start saying, 2,000 is not good enough, I want 25, then we're negotiating.
if you guys want to talk about an executive session, that's fine. And this is, other ones I brought, we haven't negotiated. So I just brought them here and we said yes or no, and usually we said yes because,
Yeah.
but if you want to do it in executive session?
Let's just move to executive session.
All right, we can do that. Okay. Tax refunds. So I would entertain a motion to approve tax refunds.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax refunds in the amount of $4,672.40.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Every time I look to see if my name's on this list. Someday I'm gonna get some money back.
okay. Hope you do.
Don't hold your breath.
Make it 10,000.
Okay, do we vote on it?
I did, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the last new business is the gas leak, Andy.
Yeah, interesting and kind of troubling thing happened yesterday at Meadow Farms. They're building a new house down the road, 2 houses from us, and they struck a gas line. I don't think they filed for a call before they did. And it was apparently, I was out of town, but apparently it was kind of a risky situation for a short while. The leak was so bad that the neighbor could actually see debris flying out of the trench where it was being dug, dirt flying and so on. And the young fellow with the backhoe decided he was going to stop the flow by pounding on the pipe with the back. Fortunately, the pipe was plastic. If it were steel, none of us would be here today. But what I wanted to talk about really more than that, that's an unfortunate thing that happened, and I'm sure that there will be consequences for the builder. But the neighbors were really impressed with how well the fire departments and the police department responded. Eversource was there very quickly. They said that the police came and the fire department came, and they were very courteous. They told them what was happening. They told them how to exit the area. They did not want them going back on Depot Street. They had them go down that transfer road to Farm Road, and they helped people who needed help and prevented them from going in the wrong direction. And we had an association meeting last night, and they asked me to convey to the board and to the police and fire departments that they thought they did a very fine job.
And someone came to my office and said the same thing from Acorn Drive. And but one complaint I heard was that it took Eversource like at least half an hour, probably more, to turn off that gas.
Yeah, apparently Eversource arrived almost immediately, but the shutoff valve is within 10 feet of Depot Street, and the valve cover that's an unfinished road. It is not a finished surface, and that road will not be finished until such time as the houses are built out. And Eversource had a tough time removing the cap because it was buried in sediment, and getting in because the water and sediment had leaked into the cap, into the enclosure where the valve, the control for the shutoff valve was. So it did take more time. I didn't happen to be there, didn't see any of the action at all. But I will say this, when I arrived home, which was in the early afternoon, they had it under control, Eversource, and the people who were building the house were actually backfilling the area, so Eversource had corrected the problem. I got a telephone call that said, and by name, saying that the valve had been shut off, and there would be no heat, no gas flow to your house. There would be people from Eversource knocking on your door. Please ask for the company identification. Don't let them in your house until they show you that. They will start your furnace, and they will also start your gas fireplace. And two young fellows came in, and they were I showed them took them downstairs to the basement and showed them where the furnace was. He had that up and running in 30 seconds, and the fellow at the gas fireplace had it running before we got back upstairs here. So everybody did a good job, and I did hear the fact that it did take a bit of time. And maybe it's a private road, and the town probably, and the town has no responsibility. But it might help if the town could go in there and put in some blacktop to prevent the sediment from getting in there. I talked to Ray Booton about doing it, and Ray would actually install, what it really needs is a riser. When I first bought the house 4 years ago, there was a divot in the road and the car lumped through it, and it was clear that it was going to break up the asphalt at some point in time because water was settling in it. So I called the gas company and said, you know, can you fix that? And they said, oh, sure, we'll put a riser on it, but we're not going to do that until the final road is in. And I said, but the road's going to go to pot. And, you know, it's at least an inconvenience. And they said, we'll fix it when they, you know, when the final road is in. That's probably a year and a half, 2 years away. Maybe we could do something to make it easier or better. It was an emergency. It really was. I think people performed very well under those emergency situations. I think our people got out of the neighborhood as directed by the fire and police. I think Eversource did a good job. They might have been a little bit slow in turning that valve off. I think there were probably complications that were, you know, forced upon them. But just a bit of thought, maybe we could do something to get that valve high enough so it doesn't, there's no standing water on top of the valve cover.
Okay. Again, as you said, the police and the fire did an excellent
Did a good job.
Yeah.
Everybody said so.
Okay.
We should get to the chiefs of the fire department, and we should get to our police chief. I plan to call him and tell him that.
Okay.
Maybe a letter from you, Bob, to
Okay.
the three of them,
All right.
would be in order.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next. Selectmen reports. So Charlie, you're up.
Okay. Monday, October 1st, I sat in on the Warehouse Point Fire Commission's meeting, and just as a little information about how things are going there, they've had, I was kind of surprised at this number, 358 calls year-to-date, which is quite a number.
It's low, I think. Aren't they usually closer to 5 at the end of the year?
I don't know, I just thought that was a lot, but that's me. For the month of September, they did 12 inspections, the fire marshals did, and spent 20 and a quarter hours doing that, just to give us some frame of reference. And so everything seems to be going okay there. They are still interested in pursuing about a town-wide fire department, and so Andy and I will be meeting with them this coming week because they're unable to do so the following week. On Monday, we're going to be meeting with the chief of Broadbrook. So we'll give you an update after that. What we're going to do is debrief from the meeting in Barkhamsted with them at that district back a month or more ago. Okay. And last thing regarding it, they asked me to mention is they're having a pig roast on Saturday from 3 to 5 at the Warehouse Point Firehouse. I guess they've done that in the past. And that's all I have.
Charlie, if I may, Amy O'Toole set us up with a meeting over the Barkhamsted Fire Department. Both Warehouse Point and Broadbrook accompanied Charlie and I. It was a good meeting. They're not exactly like us, but they're probably as close as you're going to come to being like us. They explained how they function, how they work together, and I think that the people from both departments took something good away from that. Charlie and I promised to go off and try to come up with some kind of a methodology and an agreement between the fire departments to come up with the right kind of arrangement for a fire district. And I think we're getting closer. I didn't say closer.
Yeah.
And that's good,
Yeah.
and we'll continue. We had promised you to have it done by the budgeting period, or you were gonna fund where else point an equal amount. I'm not sure whether that's possible or not, but I really do think that during 2019, we will have something that's workable. I really do believe that.
Well, that's great.
They seem to be of the mood to cooperate.
Yes.
Okay, so Andy,
No meeting, no report.
no meeting, no report. Okay, Jason.
On September 22nd, I was delighted to participate in the culmination of East Windsor's 250th anniversary celebration by marching in the Heritage Day Parade. There were more than 60 parade participants, and the parade lasted about an hour and a half, which is the longest I can ever remember happening in town. It was awesome. And events like that don't just happen, so I'd like to thank again the planning committee who put all of the annual festivities for the year together, those who were on the committee and those who were just volunteers associated with the committee. They really did a great job, and they clearly worked very hard for 2 years to put on a number of really great events. On September 23rd, speaking of great events, I attended the interment of the new time capsule to be dug up in 50 years. I hope to be there to see it open, but it's kind of like right on the actuarial border. On Tom Talamini's suggestion, I did include a note from my wife and I for our future family to be open, so we'll at least be there in spirit. On the 26th, the pension board met and interviewed the 3 remaining candidates to handle the town employees' 457 and 401(a) plans. There are some lingering questions that remain outstanding, and so we met again on Monday of this week to dive a little bit deeper into those. We're continuing to do due diligence to make sure that we're making as sound and responsible financial decisions as we can on behalf of the town's employees, but we do have a bit more work to do before we come to any decision. And then, as Sarah pointed out, I have been approached by several different people at several different events who commented that they're concerned about a conflict of interest that this board created by appointing Mr. Yaglov as one of our town's attorneys. He is a member of at least 2 boards, the Mill Study Committee and the Charter Revision Commission, and it would be more appropriate if there was some line drawn to indicate when or how he's working as our attorney versus as a board or commission member. Those conflicts of interest, whether they be perceived or otherwise, should be addressed and stopped. And I've heard that, I think, from 4 people at 3 different events. So I'm not making it up. Respectfully submitted.
Okay. And the only thing I have is that on October 23rd, a structural engineer who specializes in the remediation of restoration of old structures is going to go down and look at the Broadbrook Mill itself. To go in, you have to wear a, what is it called, a Tyvek suit and a respirator. And I'm going to go in with her, and also Chris Davis is going to be there, and maybe a few other people. We'll see about Lenny and Rand Stanley. So we're starting to do a little more with Broadbrook Mill.
Okay, good.
And that's all I have.
Bob, on the mill committee, I think it's worth saying that I think the committee and Bob, Rand, and I met with the representative of UTC. I think we see a spirit of cooperation that's rising. They're willing to talk to us. They're willing to provide more information than they have in the past. We're going to have another discussion with them this coming week. I'm a little encouraged.
It's also good news.
Okay, we need signatures on the check register, but now I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all.
I'm sorry, 9 o'clock on the dot.
Okay, we just forwarded you.
You know, I didn't see what you came out.
The list?
Yeah.
Yesterday or?
You know it.
Well, I don't want to know it anyway.
They didn't give it to us.
Oh, they didn't give it to you, all right.
Okay.
All right, thanks. Just because it got approved, like, on the.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Sure. I looked carefully, my name's not on there. Maybe next time.